Hi there everyone and welcome to Tech Cravers. In this video we're taking a closer look at the AYANEO Pocket Air, and this is not only AYANEO's first ever Android device, but it's also my first experience ever with an AYANEO product. I have been using it a lot for the past days and I feel quite comfortable now to go through all my thoughts on this device as well my pros and cons. As I hope you can tell from this footage, the Pocket Air design is truly exquisite. This is a consistent hallmark of AYANEO, evident each time they're introducing a new handheld device. However, what I'm interested in knowing is how successful they transitioned from Windows-based handhelds to Android. I'm eager to delve deeper into this aspect. The chipset they've employed, the Dimensity 1200, isn't the top tier choice like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, nevertheless it should have the capability to handle most retro game systems in terms of emulation. Additionally, noteworthy features include a generous battery, this beautiful AMOLED screen, and a meticulously designed ergonomic layout, all of which appear to promise very comfortable gaming sessions. So in this video we'll explore whether the initial price tag of $300 is a worthwhile investment for you and if the device hardware and software can justify the cost. Now let's jump into it. And before we do anything else, let's start out with the specs of this device. I mentioned earlier that we have a Dimensity 1200 for CPU. That's an 8-core processor found in the OnePlus Nord 2 and Oppo Reno 6 Pro among other phones. And in terms of RAM, we have 3 different options when purchasing the Pocket Air: 6, 8 and 12 gigabytes. Same story with the internal storage, we can choose between 128, 256 and 512 gigabytes. The device I have here has 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of internal storage. And for display we have a gorgeous 5.5-inch AMOLED at 1080p resolution and 16:9 aspect ratio. The battery is 7350 mAh, and which, depending on what you will do with your device, will hold for up to 8 hours of gaming on one charge. Lastly, for connectivity we have a DisplayPort 1.4, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.0 and also 4G LTE if you supply your own SIM card. The operating system is Android 12, and among other features we have a micro SD slot and a fingerprint reader. The joysticks are small and closely resemble those found on the Nintendo Switch, but AYANEO, like most others today, has transitioned to Hall sensor technology, which eliminates the issue of drifting in the future. And in fact, the beige color is the only one in the color scheme that I don't really like. Fortunately, AYANEO includes both black and red ones if you want to switch them out. I did notice in the Gamepad tester app that I'm not getting full range of motion in the corners, but I haven't noticed any effect of this in my actual gameplay. They stick out a bit from the case, meaning it's a bit less pocketable, but also that it's a lot more ergonomic. The Dpad is rubber membrane and it's quite large, and I like the overall looks and feel of it. And in terms of gaming, both in fighting games, like here in Soul Calibur 2 on the Nintendo Gamecube, and in old classics like here in Ice Climber on the NES, it gets the job done. Okay, moving on. On the bottom left corner we have Select and Start, which have a soft clicky feel to them. And on the other side of the screen we find the face buttons, and while they are overall nice, my only complaint is that they are on the smaller side. I wouldn't mind if they were a tiny bit bigger for easier reachability and ergonomics as well. And finally, on the bottom right we have 2 more buttons. The one on the right serves as a home button within Android, and the one on the left brings up AYANEO's quick menu, but more on that soon. Moving on to the top, we have stacked triggers and shoulder buttons, and the triggers are great and you can click anywhere on them to execute the action. I really like the shoulder buttons on the Pocket Air as well. They have great travel, are easy to press down on and are very responsive. Overall, they feel great to use. And apart from those buttons, we have the exhaust vent for the active cooling, a small hole for the microphone, volume rockers, and the power on button, which also serves as a fingerprint reader. But AYANEO has actually included 2 more hidden buttons on the top. Next to each trigger we have 2 more clickable buttons that can be used to map shortcuts or hotkeys to them, like save states or load save states in emulators or anything else you might want. The stereo speakers on this device are unfortunately not that great. It's not super bad, but it's quite muffled, and I think we deserve more in a $300 device. And now it's time to compare this device to a few ones already out there. First off, here it is next to the Nintendo Switch Lite. The Switch Lite has the same 5.5-inch screen but at a lower 27p. The black bezels on the Pocket Air makes it look as if the screen is bigger, but it's not. The AYANEO Pro has a bigger 6-inch screen and it's also a tiny bit larger in the overall size of the case. Next up is the Pimax Portal, which has a 5.46-inch 4K QLED screen, which is quite insane, and it's also a tiny bit larger when the Joy-Con controllers are attached. Lastly, I just want to show you a comparison to the Android handheld that I've been using the most for the last couple of weeks, and that's the Logitech G Cloud. It has a much bigger 7-inch screen, meaning that the overall size of the handheld itself is also much bigger. And here you also get a good comparison of that off-white color on the Pocket Air next to the clean white on the Logitech G Cloud. In terms of weight, the Pocket Air weighs in at 386 grams, compared to the super light Switch Lite on about 280 grams. The slightly bigger Odin Pro actually weighs 10 grams less at 377 grams, and the much bigger G Cloud weighs about 100 grams more at 465 grams. And now I think it's time to talk about the software experience on the AYANEO Pocket Air. First of all, it's a rather basic version of Android 12. It doesn't come with too many apps pre-installed, but it has the Google Play Store there, so you can start downloading your favorite apps, games and emulators right away. It also comes with AYANEO's front end or Games Hub, the Aya Space, out of the box, and supposedly you should be able to put games in the folders that AYANEO has pre-made before shipping the devices. Unfortunately, I can't get this to work at all, and I actually haven't been able to import my games using the Aya Space software. And to be honest, the Aya Space software is super buggy right now, and it shuts down all the time when I try to use it. I have updated everything that I could, but that didn't help either. So I really hope that this is something that the devs are working on and that they will shoot out an update sometime soon. And now to that quick menu button I was talking about before. Clicking the button brings up this menu, and from here you can do a few things. In the performance tab you can swap between 3 different modes: game, balance and saving. Obviously the game mode is what you want to activate before gaming, while the saving mode will give you more out of the battery but at a lack of gaming performance. You can also manually control the active cooling from here by clicking on fan mode and switch between mute, balance and max. And now I want to talk about something that was really driving me crazy. There's a software bug that, even if you think you're in gaming mode, actually switches you to balance mode after a restart. This results in a much lower gaming performance than you should have. Thanks to Russ from Retro Game Corp's video on this bug, I was able to resolve this issue as well. So a massive shout out to him and the community for figuring that out. The only thing you have to remember is to switch between gaming mode and another mode and then back to gaming mode again. Hopefully this will be fixed by the devs as soon as possible. Back at the quick menu, at the bottom we can also activate a small performance overlay bar that we can move around on the screen. And in the next tab we have a few different tweaks that we can do with the controller, like swapping out the layout, activate the gyro, or change the LED lights on the thumbsticks. Something missing though is a key mapper, and this is a huge bummer as it means we cannot use the physical controls in Android games that otherwise require touchscreen controls. I really hope that this is also something that AYANEO will let us have in a future update. And lastly we have a widgets tab, which is shortcuts to different handy apps and settings on your device. But now we have been talking a lot about experience of the hardware and software. Let's jump into the most important stuff on a handheld like this, and that is of course gaming performance. I'm gonna start with lower end emulation and then we're gonna work our way up to the higher end stuff. And of course when it comes to these lower end systems you're gonna have absolutely zero performance issues. The warm colors of the OLED display will make your colors pop. For PlayStation and N64 you won't find any issues either, and I'm playing my PlayStation games here upscaled to 1080p resolution without any problem. And of course it's the same with N64 1080p without any performance issues. Next system to work flawlessly out of the box is the Nintendo 3DS. I'm playing Ocarina of Time 3D in 4x native resolution at full speed. And remember that this is a system that required quite some tweaking to work in full speed on the Odin Pro last year. And also the gyro works perfectly out of the box. But now it's time to test the higher end systems to see what this device is truly capable of. Starting off with SX3 for the Nintendo GameCube in 2x native resolution or 720p. And even though the screen is capable of 1080p, the small size will make 27p look amazing as well. And I was super excited to see that GameCube games run pretty much flawlessly on this device. As a matter of fact, I was prepared to become kind of disappointed, but that proved not to be the case. I actually think we're at a stage where an Android handheld can now run all GameCube games at full speed, only limited by the emulator capabilities. I'm playing my PSP games in 4x native resolution or 1080p as well, and they run at full speed also. And since God of War Chains of Olympus is running this great, you can assume that any other PSP game will as well. Just as thrilled I was about the GameCube games, I was equally delighted to see how smoothly PlayStation 2 games run on the AYANEO Pocket Air at 2.5x the native resolution. Some games work better with the Vulkan backend, and some games work better with the OpenGL backend. But that's more because of the emulator status than of the device itself. I feel comfortable to say that AYANEO Pocket Air is absolutely great for PlayStation 2 games. And this device can also of course run all the Android games you can think of from the Google Play Store, and if the game has a built-in controller support, it will be a real pleasure to play them on the AYANEO Pocket Air. So if you're planning to play Android games on your device, you will be satisfied with the performance. However, as I mentioned before, I'd really like to see a built-in keymapper tool in the AYANEO software. And all that has led up to my pros and cons of the AYANEO Pocket Air. And what I really like about this device is the excellent ergonomic and at the same time pocketable design, the beautiful display, large battery capacity, and the awesome emulation performance. This device is the best Android device in the hands of customers yet to play PlayStation 2 and GameCube games on. It also has an overall premium feel hardware-wise. And what I basically don't like is the state of the AYANEO software. It's buggy and it feels unfinished compared to many competitors. A built-in keymapper is also an absolute must for devices like this, and it should have been present from day one. And that's been it for my review of the Pocket Air from AYANEO. If you enjoyed this video or if it helped you out, please give a thumbs up as it really helps out, probably more than you think. Also leave a comment if you have any questions about the Pocket Air, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching, happy gaming everyone!